and the people sitting next to us are wearing baseball jerseys. And then I think, why did I even bother? Hello everybody and welcome back here. Happy Sunday or happy whatever day it is you're watching this. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides and I'm having a fantastic weekend. Why? Because I am now officially on vacation. Yeah, I know it looks to you guys like I am always traveling, like I'm never at home, like I'm just doing all these fun things, but I do have a real life job, and at the moment my real life job has been real busy. I've been putting in a lot of hours, and I know last weekend, or 2 weekends ago was it? I was at Efteling. Was that just last weekend? It was, wasn't it? At the moment, I am going to be traveling a lot, but it's just this month, and before that there was a lot of not traveling and just a lot of working. All right, as you know, or I hope that you know if you've been around here for a while, I am leaving for a cruise in about a week, and it's going to be a very special cruise, not only because Marcus is coming with me, I mean that's not special, but because my mom is going, and it's going to be her first cruise ever. And I thought I would take the opportunity to go through some first cruise questions. And so what I did is I wrote down all of the questions that she sent that I thought would be interesting for you guys to know as well, for anybody who might be watching this and has not yet been on a cruise. And if you watch a few of my videos, I think that you'll convince yourself that you should go on a cruise. I wrote them down here in my phone, and I will just go through what they are. It starts with, what time can we board the ship? All right, so first of all, plus points to my mom for calling it a ship and not a boat. That is sort of a pet peeve of a lot of cruisers, and if you want to get a lot of comments in the cruise ship forum, then go there and call the cruise ship a boat. All right, so the question was, though, what time can we board the ship? And that kind of varies. Of course, it depends on what time the ship gets to the port, and, oh, I just realized I'm not wearing my glasses, my watch, or my ring, but they're all still there. Tangent. Before you leave for the port, a few days, or at least, like a week, you should do an online check-in over the cruise ship's website, or you can have your travel agent help you with that as well. And most of the time when you do that, you will be assigned a time to board the ship. I haven't had really any experience where I've gone to the port and not been able to board the ship immediately, but that is a risk that you run if you go to the port before the time that you have been assigned. And the reason that they assign these times is because some of these ships are, really big. We're going on the Norwegian Escape, over 4,000 passengers, and if all 4,000 of these people show up at noon, of course that's not gonna work. So they need to, spread it out over the day. And my experience has been the later you go to the port, the quicker you're going to get onto the ship. However, that doesn't mean you're going to be on the ship earlier, but just the check-in process on its own is going to go quicker because most people will be there already. So when I did my online check-in, which I did just before starting this video, by the way, I was allowed to pick a time to board. And I don't know if that's because of my status with the what's it called again? What is Norwegian's latitudes, the frequent cruiser plan latitudes. I don't know if it had to do with my latitude status or if it has to do with that I was invited by the media team through a connection with Josh at cruisesbyjosh.com to be a VIP on the cruise. We'll see what that means when I get there. I don't know if that also had an influence about being able to pick what time I wanted to come, but anyways, for all you and for you, Mom, if you're watching this, I chose noon. So we're gonna be boarding the ship relatively early, and interestingly enough, it doesn't leave until 8 that evening. So we will probably be the last cruise out of the port. And I know that a lot of you have been writing that you're gonna be leaving on a cruise that day as well from Miami. And so please, this is my official invitation or my official request. If you are leaving from a cruise in Miami on April 14th, I think it is, please send me a private message, preferably on Facebook, so I have them all in one place, because I want to set up a way that we can wave to each other as the ships are passing. So please, please, please get in touch. That is the first question. Second question, will we have Wi-Fi? Jein. Oh, I'm sorry, that was German. That's a German way of saying yes and no at the same time. Will we have Wi-Fi? Maybe. Most modern ships nowadays offer wireless internet. Most of them are not necessarily good internet connections. It will not be as good as you have at home. The only time I've ever been on a ship where I thought this internet is fantastic was the Harmony of the Seas. That internet was faster than I have at home. It was like a miracle. It was fast enough to do a live stream, so never had that kind of internet connection on a ship. Most ships offer internet. You will have to pay for it. It will be very expensive, and it won't be good. That's just my 2 cents about it. I'm interested to see what it's going to be like on the Norwegian Escape, because it is a very new ship. If it's going to be as good as the VOOM internet on the Harmony, I don't know. The internet I had on the Epic at the end of last year it was like an old-fashioned dial-up connection. It was not... it was reliable. It was just very, very slow. So downloading or uploading pictures took a while, and watching a video or uploading a video would never have worked with that internet on the Epic. So I do believe that we have some internet minutes included in our package. So Mom, if you're watching this, yes, we will have Wi-Fi, but best thing to do is just, leave your phone and enjoy being on the ship or being in port. Next question. Will we be able to use our cell phones without large fees? No. No, 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 no. Word of advice. As soon as... now I'm like those young beauty YouTubers. No, 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 no. As soon as you leave the port, you should put your telephone in airplane mode, because worldwide or international roaming fees are just really, really expensive. And a lot of times people make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, I'm in Jamaica and I've got connection, so it must be fine. No, you're in Jamaica and you've got connection, but you've got connection over some kind of Jamaican carrier, and it's just going to be really, really expensive. So unless you have set up some kind of international calling plan with your carrier, with your provider before you leave, then you need to put your phone in airplane mode as soon as you leave the port, and leave it that way until you get home. Otherwise, you're going to have some really nasty bills when you get back to your home. You're welcome. Next question. Can we tour Atlantis? This is relevant to the cruise that we are going to be on. We are stopping in Atlantis, Georgetown, and Ocho Rios. And, we're not stopping in Atlantis, we're stopping at Nassau, which is in the Bahamas, and that is where the huge Atlantis resort is located. And my mom wanted to know if we could tour it. And the answer to my mom is yes, we can tour it, because I got in touch with the PR department there, and they have invited us to come and spend the day there, which I'm so thankful for. And I thank all of you, because if I didn't have as many people watching my videos, that probably wouldn't be possible. If you are not invited to go there from the PR department, then there are 2 options. Well, probably 3 options. Let's say there's 3 options if you want to see the Atlantis Resort in Nassau on the Bahamas. You can just go there in a cab. When you get off the ship, go to the port. There are these collected cab services where you just tell somebody at the counter where you want to go. They say, okay, go stand by number 6. A cab driver comes, picks up all the people at number 6. They're all going to the same place. You pack into this van, and then you go there. It's kind of hectic. It's kind of hustly-bustly. There'll be a lot of people sitting very close together in these vans, but the ride, at least to Atlantis, is very short, and it costs, I think, like $5 a person. So, it's really not bad at all. When you get to Atlantis, if you have nothing set up in advance, there are certain areas of the resort that you can walk around just for free. Mostly the shopping areas and the lobby. If you want to see any of the pools, any of the water slides, any of the beaches or anything, that is something that is only for hotel guests or for people who have bought or purchased a day pass or are visiting it on part of an excursion. So those are the other two ways to do it. You can purchase a day pass for the resort grounds, which includes the aquarium, the beaches, and the water park. However, it is not for people on a small budget, and they do sell out because the whole idea is to keep the amount of people using those amenities small enough that the people who are paying to stay at the resort still, profit from staying there. If there's like 3 ships in port, that could be, like 16,000 people there just for the day. And if all 16,000 people go to the Atlantis water park, sorry, my leg is falling asleep. If all 16,000 people want to go to Aquaventure at Atlantis, that's not going to be fun for anybody. And so day passes do sell out, and they are not for people on a small budget. I think they start at like $90, and depending on what day and what time of the year, I think they go up to like $110, $120. You're getting access to this amazing resort for a day, but like I said, it's not for somebody on a small budget. That's the second way that you can visit Atlantis. And the third way, like I said, is if you book some kind of excursion that includes visiting Atlantis. And they also offer swimming with dolphins and backstage tours and things like that at Atlantis as well. So those are all maybe options for the excursions you could take. That would include Atlantis. Next question would be, do we have to make restaurant reservations? Well, you can. You don't need to. Just a little quick rundown. If you are somebody who has not yet been on a cruise, there are, let's say, 3 kinds of dining on board. There are the dining options that are included in the price of your cruise, and those will be counter service restaurants where you just go up to the counter and you say, yes, give me that piece of pizza and that muffin, and that cookie, and that piece of cake, and that pudding. And of course, you don't need to make a reservation for that. Then there is the buffet restaurant, which is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you do not need to make a reservation for the buffet. Then there is what's called the main dining room. It's an old tradition that's sort of disappearing on most ships. It's no longer like a main dining room. Most of them have some kind of name, and it's a restaurant atmosphere with a menu that changes every night. They are open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it is recommended that on most ships that you make a reservation for the main dining room if that is where you're going to eat that night, just so you can be sure that you're going to get a table when you want to eat. On some ships, they still do the old-fashioned system where you have to choose a dining time before you even board the ship, and it's going to be an early time like at 6:30 or a late time like at 9:30. And the reason they do that is also just to make sure that not all 4,000 people go to eat at the same time, and it also makes it possible for everybody to go see the big headliner or the musical show that night, because not all 4,000 people can fit into the theater on the ship. So there is a rhyme and a reason behind it. Then, the other kind of dining option on board would be the specialty restaurants or the upcharge restaurants. Those are restaurants that are not included in the price of your cruise. And for those restaurants, I highly recommend that you do make a reservation before you board the ship. Just because they're smaller venues, some of them are extremely popular, and if there's one that you really, really want to visit, then you definitely should make a reservation just to be sure that you're not disappointed and that you don't get on the ship and they're like, sorry, we're booked. And we have had that happen, actually. So yes and no, you can or should make dining reservations. Answer to that question. Do we need to book excursions? Also, yes and no. That really, really depends on what it is you want to do, who you're traveling with, and where you're visiting, I guess. There are some ports, especially ports in the Mediterranean, if you do a Mediterranean cruise or if you're doing a Northern Europe cruise to like Norway and Sweden, there are some ports where you can literally walk right off the ship and you are in downtown and you can just walk around all day and explore the city on your own, do a double-decker sightseeing bus tour, something like that, and it is not necessary, or do I really necessarily recommend paying extra money for an excursion, which would be like some kind of tour set up by either the ship or a local excursion company to show you something there. There are just some cities where I think, it's really not necessary to do that because there are so many things to do and see right walking off the ship. However, there are other ports where that's not possible. One I can think of is the cruise port. Oh, what is it called again? I think it's Haifa, the cruise port for Jerusalem in Israel. If you don't book an excursion there, then you do not get off the ship. If you've ever been there, I'm sure you know what I mean. The port is a very secure area. It is guarded by people with machine guns, and outside of the port, for miles and miles and miles, there's just like industry. There's nothing to look at. I'm trying to think of other ports where I would recommend. Well, a lot of the ports in the islands between like Florida and South America, like Caribbean islands or the Bahamas, things like that, there are certain things, beaches and stuff, that you can easily reach with a taxi ride. But there are other things and other ports where it is recommended that you do an excursion, especially if there are some sort of like safety issues. Like I know some ports in Jamaica at the moment, they recommend that you only do an official ship-sponsored excursion just for safety reasons. So yeah, what am I trying to say? Yes, you can book an excursion. Sometimes it's recommended. It's definitely sort of a stress-free way to do something when you're in port because all right, when we get there, all I have to do is follow this person with the flag. They're going to take me off of the ship into the bus. Whenever we get to the first destination, they're going to tell me all about everything that's there. And then I get back on the bus. We go to the next destination. They're going to tell me what time I have to leave. And I'm going to be sure that I'm going to get back to the ship on time. And if not, because it is an official ship reservation, the ship will wait for me. So that is a reason that you could and should book an excursion. I feel like I've talked a lot about this point. I hope that I've helped you. We have booked an excursion. Like I said, we are going to be visiting Atlantis. We're just going to be taking a taxi over there and then going in with our day passes in, I believe it's Georgetown. Are we going to Georgetown? I'm sorry, I need to check this. Hold on. Okay, I was obviously confused. I checked my Shipmate app here. Ocho Rios is Jamaica. I'm sorry. And when we are there, we are going to be doing a floating down the river in an inner tube tour, which I'm looking forward to, kind of. The reason I'm not is because Marcus doesn't like swimming and my mom cannot swim. But this was her idea, so let's see how that goes. And we are going to Georgetown, but Georgetown is Grand Cayman. So what we want to do there is we want to do a glass bottom boat tour and maybe hang out at a beach, but we still don't know exactly how we're going to do that. So some people were writing some suggestions and I kind of lost track of where that was. So if you're watching this now and you have a suggestion on the best way to do that, then please write it now in the comments below. Or the best way is to send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram. So I have it, in one place. And then, we have two sea days, and then we're back in Miami. So those are the excursions that we're going to be doing on this cruise. Let's move back to the questiones. Does Tim need a sport coat to eat in the upgraded restaurants, or could he wear a shirt and tie and maybe a sweater vest? All right, she's asking about the dress code. And this is a topic that a lot of people discuss. If you're going to go eat in any of the sit-down restaurants, I highly recommend that you wear something nice. I just think that it kind of fits and adds to the mood. And some ships are kind of strict about it. They suggest a dress code. And I know for some restaurants they are very strict about it, and they'll ask you to go change if you're not dressed appropriately. And I don't know why, I find it kind of... I don't know, I get frustrated or I get annoyed when I know there's a dress code, and so we bring the extra clothes and we make sure that the shirt doesn't get wrinkled and we have a tie and put on a jacket, and then we go to this restaurant and the people sitting next to us are wearing baseball jerseys. And then I think, why did I even bother? Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean to complain or criticize anybody. I just... if there is a dress code that I feel like, or I just wish that everybody would would stick to it, because then it feels kind of nice and you feel elegant and you look around and everybody's looking all snatched, and that can be nice. However, I don't prefer going to those places, and so maybe that's another factor that I feel like, okay, if I am going to get dressed up, then everybody's getting dressed up. You know what I mean? So to answer my mom's question, does Tim, which is a friend she's bringing with, does he need to bring nice clothes? And I would say yes, because I know we're going to go to some of the sit-down restaurants. I know we're going to use our onboard credit for one or two of the specialty restaurants. And so I think we should bring some nice clothes. You do not have to, but I think you should at least bring some polo shirts, or if you're a guy, some polo shirts or some button-down shirts. I don't think you need to bring a jacket. You don't necessarily need to bring a tie. It really has to do with what you're comfortable in and if you really want to get dressed up. For the ladies, I know that usually the ladies, they like to get dressed up. They like to use the opportunity to maybe buy some new clothes, something fancy, and to get all dolled up and blinged up for, at least one night of the cruise. And so if you want to do that, then do that. You definitely will not look out of place. You will look less out of place if you're dressed up every night than if you go to a sit-down restaurant on the ship wearing a baseball jersey. I can tell you that much. My mom asked if he needs to bring a sweater vest. No, nobody needs to bring a sweater vest. Next question. Josh recommends bringing a raincoat. Why? Well, that's a very easy question to answer. If it rains, you will need a raincoat. Sorry, was that sassy? Will rough seas affect us porting? Good question, and the answer is, unfortunately, yes. If the seas are very, very rough, there are some ports that you cannot visit, and especially if you're going to be tendering. What that means is, there's two ways. The ship can stop at a dock. What a dock is, that's what, you know what that is. And then it's tied up, and then it's very easy to get on and off of the ship. The tendering is when there is no dock. So the ship drops its anchors, just like an old-fashioned ship, outside of the harbor, and then you have to get out of the ship through a hole in the side into a boat, and the boat takes you on to land. And there's something really special about doing that. And also, one really cool thing about when you're tendered is you can get awesome pictures of the ship just because you're very close to it, and then you get further away and the ship is like stuck out there on the horizon. So that's something really cool about tendering. However, if it is extremely foggy or if the sea is extremely rough, then you cannot tender. And people get really upset about that, which I can understand. If you're only visiting 3 ports like we are, and then you can't stop at one, then you're only visiting 2 ports, then you're kind of missing out on I'm terrible at math, like 35% of the places you were going to see on your ship. But if it's so safe that you can't do it, then it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's not like, the cruise ships can still not control the weather. So if it's bad weather, then yeah, could be affected. I hope it won't be. We'll see. Next question. We're confused by the gratuity plan. How does it work? I can understand that you're confused, but I have a really easy way to describe it. Most resorts nowadays, especially Las Vegas resorts or Miami resorts, when you book, it says, okay, it's costing $190 a night to stay here. However, there is always, always, always a resort fee. That's something that comes extra on top for every day that you stay there, and they say that's for the pool and for the internet and for using the gym and the steam room or whatever. So think of the onboard gratuities like a resort daily fee, and then you're good to go. A difference is the onboard gratuities that you pay while you're on a ship, while you're on a cruise, that includes the tips for the people who serve you in the restaurants. So that is a big difference. Meaning, if you only go to eat at the buffet and the main dining room and the restaurants that are included in the price of your cruise, then technically you don't have to tip any of those people who serve you because they are tipped from the onboard daily gratuities that are just automatically added to your account. You pay for it at the end of the cruise. If you have the drink package like we have, then you also don't have to tip them because that's included in the price. I usually tip the bartenders, especially if I find one that I really that I think is a good time and that makes great drinks. And we tend to usually go to that person, and I always tip like $1 for a drink. But if you have the drink package, you don't have to. If you don't have the drink package, then the tip is going to be automatically added to the bill anyways, so you don't have to worry about that either. These onboard gratuities are for your cabin steward, the waiters in the main dining room, and then a lot of other people behind the scenes who help make sure you have a good cruise. So I hope that answers that question. Next question was, how can we spend the $125 of onboard credit? We are getting some onboard credit, which means it's like spending money that you can only spend on the ship. And the way that you spend it is basically, it's not like you can go into a restaurant and say, I want those nachos, but I want to pay for it with my onboard credit. Or I want to buy that watch, but I want to pay for it with my onboard credit. It doesn't work like that. Basically, you buy the things you want to buy, you book it to your cabin number, and at the end of the cruise, the amount of onboard credit that you have will just be deducted from your final bill. However, there's one thing that I'm pretty sure you cannot use onboard credit for, and that is for credit in the casino. So let's say you don't buy anything the entire cruise, which is very unlikely, but let's say you don't do it. And you don't go to any of the sit-down restaurants or anything, and you ask at the reception to have the daily gratuities removed from your cruise bill, which you can do on some cruise lines, as long as you then tip the individual people with cash. You can do that. So let's say you did all that, and then the only thing that you did is you got casino credit to get cash in the casino. I'm pretty sure that you cannot use your onboard credit for that. But as far as I know, you can use it for anything else, for any special experiences, backstage tours, dining things. Oh, art. I don't know if you can use it to buy art. Does anybody know? Write it in the comments below. I've never purchased art on board, which is another popular thing that people do. I didn't really realize it before I started asking people how many people actually buy art from the art auctions and from the art galleries on board. But other things like buying pictures, buying USB cards, if you forget to bring yours, like I did on Epic, can all be used. You can all use your onboard credit for that, but it's just going to be deducted from it at the end of the cruise. All right, if we don't spend our onboard credit, do we get it back? This is the last question, by the way, and the answer is no. If you don't find something to spend it on, you're not getting that back. So find something to spend it on, and believe me, it's not that hard. You won't have any trouble finding something to spend your onboard credit on, even if it's just to go out to eat or for an excursion. All right, those were the questions from my mom. Those are my questions for first-time cruisers, and now I'm going to quickly look at some questions from last week's video, like I have started doing, to answer some of those questions as well, or to comment on what things were commented on. In last week's video, I was at Efteling. I was a roller coaster tester for their brand new rebuild of the Python roller coaster. It was a fantastic weekend. We had so much fun. And now I'm going to go through the comments. Okay. This is something that's kind of funny. At one part of the video, I noticed that because we were in the park early for this press event, we also got like early access to one of the really popular rides. And on our way there, we had to walk past a fence where there were hundreds of people waiting to get into the park. And I could hear them saying things to me, but they were speaking Dutch, and I don't speak Dutch. And I was assuming that they were like, hey, are you having a good time? Or, you're so lucky. And so I was like, I had my camera on, and I was waving to them, and I was like, oh, everybody's so friendly here. And people have been writing to me, like Steen 1408 or Eric Deek. They both have been writing that they were actually saying, actually, Gulian was here, yeah. What they were saying was like, f*** off, or you wanker, get out of here. So they weren't happy to see me. They were very upset that I was already in the park and they were not, which I can understand, but you know what? There are different ways to express that. Mari Garza writes, OMG, what great footage you got. I guess you took one for the team by having your hand waxed, but better than losing your camera. She's referring to, I had my GoPro with me on the ride, and Efteling, the theme park that we were visiting, they said, oh, we're gonna set everybody up, don't worry, bring your GoPro and we'll set it up so you can film. And they had several of these, I guess you could just call it like a setup, that you could put your camera in and then strap it to the front of the car so you could see yourself on the ride. But they didn't have enough for everybody, so what they did for me and the reporter who was sitting next to me is they literally taped the camera with electrical duct tape to our hands. And you can see that in the video. And when I took it took off all the hair on the back of my hand and on my fingers, and it's actually still kind of irritated. But yeah, it was worth it. Like she said here, I took one for the team. All right, one more question. Der Lila Weise says, walking around through an empty theme park is so awesome. I could do it several times in the Heide Park, which is a theme park close to Hamburg here. It's so completely different and silent. Sometimes it was just a photo walk, once in the security area from Colossus, and sometimes an ERT was included. At one of these events, after the park closed for the public, these are so free ride times for workers, which are awesome. We had a contest on the Monster 3 where we had to blow up a balloon or had to balance a cup with water while on the ride. That sounds like so much fun. One of the big perks of working at an amusement park are nights like that, being able to do things that guests usually can't do. It was very funny, but a little wet, I can imagine. Luckily, we stayed in the hotel or the park so we could change clothes. That sounds like a great night, and that's also, spending time working in a theme park. Usually they don't pay a lot of money, or you can get other jobs or other summer jobs, other part-time jobs that pay a lot more, but you get so many perks working in an amusement park that you will never experience anywhere else, which is one reason I can recommend it. All right, wow, this is going to be a huge long video. Thank you for sticking around, and next week we are already going to be on our way. So yeah, next week it's not going to be a story time in front of the red sofa, although I probably will have a gray shirt on like I always do, which I realized last week or 2 weeks ago. So, I can't tell you right now where or what next week's Sunday Sofatime video is going to be, or Sunday Storytime, because we're going to be traveling already, and just stick around and you'll see. Thanks for coming. Thanks to everybody who supports me on patreon.com/veryunofficial. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and stick around for the upcoming cruise and the surprise. Bye-bye.